Welcome, dear students, to the MOOC series of lectures. Today's topic is migration, refugees, immigrants, citizenship. This is a very important topic for today because we have to understand that this is a very clear and present issue in today's international geopolitical situation, in international politics. This is a very important issue today. As a background, we can go into a little bit of history. This thing is very important to understand and remember that the most powerful country today in the world, United States of America, USA, is by nature, in her history, by itself, a country of migrants and refugees and asylum seekers. Different types of migrants, different kinds of refugees, different types of asylum seekers, they settled in USA and Canada. North America, even South America, Brazil, Argentina, these are countries populated by migrants and refugees and asylum seekers from Europe. Mainly Western Europe, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, United Kingdom, Ireland, and Scandinavian countries. So the language of Brazil is Portuguese, the language of Argentina is Latin, is Spanish, language of USA and Canada is English. Mexico is Spanish, parts of Canada have their language, Quebec part, as French. But the question is, what happened to the original inhabitants of these continents? The forest dwellers of Amazon basin of Brazil, the Red Indians of USA and Canada, the Aborigines in Mexico, the ancient civilizations of Incas and Aztecs and Mayas in Central Asia, in Central America. What happened to these people? We have to understand in the background that in the 16th century, from 16th century onwards, Europe had embarked on a process of colonization in which Europeans went around the world. They went to Africa, different parts of Africa, they came to India, they went to China, they went to East Asian countries, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Burma, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and the entire African continent, and Americas we have already discussed. So when Europeans expanded their empire, their colonies in all these parts of the world, they came into interaction with the original inhabitants of these places. They came into contact with Indians, with Bharatiyas, they came into contact with the Chinese, the Han Chinese, the Mandarins, they came into contact with the Japanese, the Malaya people, the Indonesian people, and the various tribes and the various communities of Western Africa, the Swahili people, the Bantu people, the South Africans of South Africa and East Africans. They came into contact with all these types of people. They came into contact with the Arabs. What was the result of this interaction? As Europe expanded its empire, European powers engaged in a process of migration and immigration. Europeans came to settle down in cities like Calcutta. Europeans came to settle down in cities like Shanghai, in Mumbai, in Hong Kong, in Singapore. These cities were made by the English, the Europeans, and they came to settle in these cities that they had created in different parts of the world. So the Europeans were immigrants into these parts. But since they were colonizers and they had made these cities and these countries became colonies of the Europeans, so Europeans had the first right to stay here. The natives became second-class citizens. The natives then followed the Europeans, the English and the Dutch and the French, and visited different parts of the world as laborers, as indentured labor, as slave labor, because the Europeans were engaged in slave trade also. They were packing up Africans. All the African population, the black population of USA, are the descendants of slaves, of African slaves, brought to USA and Canada by the Europeans in ships. They tied the hands and feet of the Africans. And in inhuman conditions, they brought these Africans to the West Indies, to USA, to Canada, to work as slaves. From Bihar, from Eastern UP, from Central India, thousands and millions of Indians, of Bharatiyas, were sent to Fiji, to Suriname, to the Caribbean islands, to Trinidad, to Tobago, to Eastern Africa, to Kenya, to Tanzania, to South Africa. Gandhiji went to South Africa. All these Bharatiyas were taken to these parts of the British Empire, to Hong Kong, to Singapore, to Shanghai, and work as indentured labor, almost bonded labor. Bharatiyas were engaged in making railway lines in Africa. Bharatiyas became policemen of Hong Kong and Singapore. The British police of Hong Kong, the British police of Singapore was of Bharatiyas, because they did not trust the local Chinese and the local Malaya people to work as policemen. So they took Indians from India to work as policemen in Hong Kong and in Singapore. These are the questions of migrations. These are the issues of immigration. These are the issues of refugees and asylum seekers. So this is the background. Because of the European expansion and colonization, various people of various countries, they intermixed along with each other. And people of one country went to live in another country due to various reasons. Those will come in a later part of the lecture. But before the European intervention, before the Europeans were doing all these things, they were discriminating, they were displacing the Aborigines of Australia, Aborigines, Maoris of New Zealand, and the inhabitants, natives of Americas, and settling down as colonizers and becoming the actual citizens of America. But the Anglo-Saxons or the Germans, the Europeans of the Americas are not the original inhabitants of America. Even the blacks are not the original inhabitants of Americas. The Red Indians, the Mayas, the Aztecs, the Perus, the Arumbayas, the tribes of the Amazon basin, the people of the Andes, the people of the Titicaca Lake, these people are the original inhabitants of the Americas. But where are they now? We don't know. So these are the few things we have to keep in mind. Even before the industrial expansion of the Europeans and European colonization, that means even before the 16th century and 15th century, people were moving around. But that kind of migration in the Middle Ages, in ancient period, when we say that Huns, the Shakas, Pahlavs, and the Mongols, they came to India, and then we say that Mongols and Tatars, they went to settle in Eastern Europe, in Russia, or the Vikings, they settled in North Africa, in Carthage. In North Vikings from Scandinavia were settling in Libya and Tunisia of today. About 1,000 years back, about 1,500 years back, 2,000 years back, Vikings were settling in different parts of Africa. Those are pre-industrial, pre-European colonization periods, pre-European colonization migrations. But those are of a different nature. Those migrations mean that the people, when they come to a new place, like the Huns, the Shakas, the Pahlavs, which came to Bharat, they became Bharatiyas. They became one. The Vikings who settled down in Libya and Tunisia in the Middle Ages, the Crusaders, some Crusaders who settled down in Jerusalem, in West Asia, in Beirut, in today's Jordan and Lebanon, they became part of that society, that culture. They became West Asian, they became Africans. So that is a pre-16th century formation of migration. That was mainly because of climatic reasons. People were displaced due to either drying up of the drinking water resources or change in weather, or they followed their wildlife, the cattle. The cattle have a migratory way of living, particularly in Central Asia. So these Central Asian tribes, they followed their cattle, and from a nomadic way of life, they became migrants into various places because they were basically nomads. So that is pre-industrial, pre-16th century, pre-15th century migration. So that is a part of history. But as a background, we have to understand that the issue of migration, refugees, asylum seekers is mainly a European created issue after 16th century. But in today's context, we have to understand also a few more points. For the present context, in 2023, the issue is important to understand in the light of what happens after 1945, which means after the Second World War. After Second World War, there is the formation of United Nations, UNO, we know. Now, United Nations, it has made various rules and regulations for the international community, for all the countries to follow. And most of the countries follow all these rules on human rights, We follow most of the countries follow the rules and the policies made by the UNO regarding migrants, regarding asylum seekers, regarding refugees, and their definitions given by the UNO are accepted by most of the countries, by the majority of the world. And this was formed after Second World War. So the processes we have to understand are of after Second World War. But again, some political science questions, some concepts of political science or international relations also have to be made clear now. The question of migration, migrants, asylum seekers, immigrants, legal or illegal, infiltrators, refugees, all these things have to be understood in the light of the concept of citizenship. There is something or someone called a citizen, and all these things are separate from a citizen. They have the different definitions. A migrant is not a refugee. A refugee is not an asylum seeker. An asylum seeker is not an infiltrator. An infiltrator is not an immigrant. An immigrant is not an expatriate. They have different definitions, but not one of them is a citizen. A citizen is totally different from all these types of people, of this population who are moving away from their own land. So the important concept is that of citizenship. The concept of citizenship is also an European concept. Like, we must keep in mind that the question of migrants and refugee asylum seekers is basically an American concept, because the country itself was founded by migrants. So the Americans are very, very particular about this concept of migrants and refugees and asylum seekers, because they themselves were migrants from Europe and then made their own country, USA. And the issue of, and the question of citizenship is linked to European history, because the idea of citizenship or a citizen is linked to the idea of nation, nationality, nationalism. And this occurs mainly in post-Napoleonic Europe, after the French Revolution and after the Napoleonic conquests. As and when Napoleon conquers most of Europe, almost all of Europe, various people take up a cause of which we in history or in political science we call as self-determination, which means people now refuse to live under empires. In Europe also there were empires or kingdoms like the Holy Roman Empire or the Merovingian Empire, the Carolingian Empire. These were kingdoms. The king could speak any language, could have any religion, and the subjects, the people living under the kingdom, were known as subjects. They were not citizens. If you have to understand in our Bharatiya context, then in a kingdom there is a Rajan or Raja and a Praja. In a Samarajya, there is a Samrat and a Praja. But in a nation, in a Rashtra, there are Nagarik. There are citizens who are sovereign. The citizen is sovereign in a nation. May be democratic, may not be democratic. But a citizen is sovereign in the nation, because citizens make the nation. But in a kingdom, only the king is sovereign, and the subjects or the praja is subject to the king. They are not sovereign. This is a very important concept. So the idea of the people living in a particular nation, they comprise a nation, they become a nation, and those people, they self-determine themselves as belonging to a nation and call themselves citizens of that nation. What then becomes is that, what it boils down to is that the citizens of a nation will have the first right. They will have the primary rights, the primary privileges, and they only will be sovereign in the nation. They will have the first rights. Anybody who is not a citizen of the nation and is coming from outside that nation will not have the same rights, or will have inferior rights, secondary rights to the citizen. The citizen will be superior to the refugee, to the migrant, to the asylum seeker, to the immigrant. And the infiltrator will be an illegal person. is an illegal person. One who has come without a passport, without a visa. That is why in the modern world we have this system of passport, visa and other documentation, which maintains that a person is a citizen and some persons are not citizens. After this arise the questions of what should be the rights and duties of the migrants. Because the rights and duties of the citizen are fixed. Like in America, the green card holder can only vote. But an H-1B visa holder in America can do all the jobs, pays taxes to USA by making an income. But since he does not or she does not have a green card, cannot vote. But is a taxpayer of USA. Is 90%, 80% citizen, but not a full citizen. Is only an H-1B visa holder, paying taxes to USA, but cannot vote. Immigrants. Now that we have understood the idea of citizens, now we come to immigrants. Now the immigrants are some people who are coming from some other country, some other nation. They do not belong to the nation to which they have come. They may be speaking the same language. They may be having the same religion. But they were not born in this country. For example, Bangladeshis. Bangladeshis who come to West Bengal or come to Bharat, they speak the same language as of Bharat. Bengali is a Bharatiya language. They are speaking Bengali. They follow the same religion. There are Muslims in Bengali Muslims in Bharat, in West Bengal. They are also Bengali Muslims in Bangladesh. But they are not Bharati citizens. They are not Bharati. So people can have same language, same identity, everything same, but will not be citizens. They will be immigrants. They will be migrants. Now, what are the different types of immigrants? There can be economic immigration for jobs and for wages or for due to economic conditions. They cannot earn money in their own country. There is poverty, lack of jobs, etc. Like many Indians also go to America and Europe for economic reasons. The Indians can speak better English than most of the Americans and the English people. But then they are not English or the American. They have gone there only for economic purposes. For political reasons. If today my country is divided, and suppose like in 1947, the Indians, the Bharatiyas who were living in Pakistan, suddenly a majority of them, the Hindus in Pakistan, they became immigrants, staying in their own home, in their own birthplace. That is why then Liaquat Ali and Nehru Pact was signed, so that the rights could be determined and people could be helped. Because Pakistan declared itself to be a Muslim country, Islamic country. So Hindus became second-class citizens in Pakistan. And they became immigrants in their own homeland, in their own birthplace. On 13th August 1947, the Hindus in Pakistan, which was still not Pakistan, but say Hindus in Sindh, or Hindus in Lahore, or say Hindus in Karachi, they were citizens of India, undivided India. But on 14th August 1947, when Pakistan was formed, suddenly the Hindus of Karachi, Hindus of Lahore, they became immigrants in their own birthplace, in their own homes. They became immigrants. So this can also happen due to political conditions. For education, people become immigrant. Like many students go to Australia, New Zealand to study. They are immigrants there. They have gone for education. For medical purposes, we all know in Calcutta, particularly in Kolkata, people from Bangladesh come for medical purposes for their treatment and everything. They are medical immigrants. For religious reasons, like the Hajj people who go to Mecca, they are immigrants for that part. For their religious purposes, they are immigrants there. So many Pakistanis and Bangladeshi come to Ajmer. For religious purposes, they are immigrants. They are visitors. They come here for 1 month, 2 months. They will stay here and then they'll go back. Some people seek asylum because of certain reasons. This was much more prevalent in the Cold War period, when many people, many scientists, many doctors, many writers from the Eastern Bloc, from the communist countries, because they wanted to live a more free life, an independent life. They became political asylum seekers in Western in Western Europe and in the democratic, in the capitalist world. Like very famous Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He was a Russian who took asylum in UK. So these are the asylum seekers. These are individual cases. People seek asylum due to certain economic, political, their academic reasons. I am not able to live properly in my own country due to certain reasons. My liberty and my safety, my health, my safety, my life and limb is in danger. So I want to emigrate, go to your country and want to feel safe and secure in your country. For my individual safety, give me asylum. So that this is also one type of immigrants. Then there are refugees. We all know refugees. Refugees can be again due to climatic conditions, displacement due to some economic project, displacement due to flooding, due to drought, due to famines, due to some epidemic. Suddenly in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, say there is an outbreak of cholera or something. People are not able to live there. They don't have any place to live. So they'll come to Bharat. Due to political reasons, there is some dictatorship, some army rule, something. People are being massacred. There is a lot of problem happening. So people are forced to leave their home, forced to leave their own country and then seek refuge. So asylum seeker are individual cases. Refugees are many in number. Lots and lots of people, when they seek asylum, then they are called refugees. If one or two people want to become refugee, then they are known as asylum seekers. So it's just a difference of number. Friends, now there is a special case of USA. We have already discussed that USA is the dominant force, dominant power. And most of the resolutions in UNO regarding immigration and migration and refugee, asylum seekers, etc., infiltrators, are defined by US concepts. And USA makes it a point, because in the end we will see, there is one slide I have given, which has the famous UN resolution, which is called the New York Resolution, which is the very latest resolution, 2017. So what are these things? The Western exclusivity, what USA thinks is that the concepts and the ideas by which USA governs itself and tries to portray a protection for the migrants and the refugees and asylum seekers, because we must always remember that USA itself is a country of migrants, is a country of refugees, is a country of asylum seekers who displaced the original inhabitants of USA and then they captured the country. So Americans are always in favor of migrants, psychologically. And this is the Western exclusivity. This was a little bit controlled during the Cold War by USSR through the process of internationalism, in which the communist concept of migration and the communist idea regarding migration, etc., was that there are borderless countries. The countries cannot have borders. The borderless countries, world citizen, global citizen, internationalism, which the US is adopting in small measure. But there's a very interesting that should be a separate topic. But it was the communist idea to have a global citizenship, international. Then there will be no boundaries, no passport, no visa, because in the communist method, Karl Marx said, workers of all countries unite. The communists didn't believe in countries. They believed in the working class, the proletariat. So the proletariat could freely grow anywhere, everywhere in the world. They did not practice it, but it was their concept. World without countries. John Lennon also has had the song, gave the song, Imagine a World Without Countries. Imagine there's no countries. But that is gone now. After USSR, that is gone. The dominant idea, the concept is of the democratic liberal template of the USA. Now, we have to understand this in a little bit more details. So, the Americas, they have their own policy regarding migrants. Trump makes a wall, wants to close off America. But then Biden again reopens the borders. And America thrives. American economy is alive because of migrant workers, cheap migrant labor from Mexico, from the Caribbeans. But then they don't allow Cuba, because Cuba is a communist country. So these are the few few administrative, few political things of the USA. USA believes in migrants to be source of cheap labor, economic migrations. It supports economic migration. And this the USA imposed on Europe. Because when America was invading Iraq, was bombing Syria, was creating and occupying Afghanistan, that period of time, many people from Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Libya, when America attacked Libya, Tunisia, all these West Asian, North African countries from these Muslim countries, they became refugees and migrants into Germany, into France, into all these countries. And USA ensured it. USA forced, like USA was taking immigrants from Brazil, from Mexico, from the Caribbean islands. USA forced European Union and Europeans to take migrants from Syria, Iraq, etc., Muslim countries. This was a major issue for Brexit. When UK decided to come out of European Union, this was a major issue because European Union wanted 2.5 million, 25 lakh, 2.5 million Iraqi and Syrian refugees, Muslims, to come and live in UK, in Scotland, England, Wales, and in Northern Ireland. UK said no, we will not allow these immigrants, these migrants to live in UK. It may be an EU policy because EU, under the guidance of USA, was giving quotas to different countries. They asked Greece to take in 60,000 migrants from Turkey. Germany took about 10 million migrants from Turkey. France took millions of migrants from Libya. From different Muslim countries, the European countries took the migrants, the refugees, because America was bombing these West Asian Muslim countries. The Muslims were displaced because America was bombing these countries. And then these people were migrating to Europe. This is a circle USA created. Now in Bharat, we all know 1947 we discussed how Hindus in their own country, in their own birthplace, all of a sudden on 14th August 1947 became immigrants, became refugees, became second-class citizens because citizenship was divided. Akhand Bharat, united India, undivided Indian citizenship was divided between Pakistan, India and Bangladesh. Now citizenship was divided. So people of one country became people of three countries. This is a unique situation of Bharat. Then because of certain internal policies of Pakistan and Bangladesh, Hindus became migrants and asylum seekers in Bharat. And because of which, present issues of CAA, NRC, which again a different topic, but linked to this concept of citizenship. Who can be a citizen of Bharat? Now, under CAA, the law is there. Government of India has taken a decision that Hindu, Sikh, Parsi, Jain, Buddhist and Christians from Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh, from these three countries, if they come to Bharat, they automatically become citizen of Bharat. They don't have to give any reason why they have come, whether they are coming here for economic reasons or they are seeking asylum, some political issue is there, etc. So they don't have to give any reasons and they become automatic citizens. That is the CA. So this is the present concept of Bharat.